How many of you all had a health class in school? Did it include how to practice safe sex, the teaching of the food groups, and the importance of saying no to drugs? Did it also include how to be emotionally stable and how to fight mental battles? Did it inform you on the different types of mental illnesses you could face in your lifetime? The answer to the last question is probably no. This is due to the stigma that mental health has attached to it. Some teachers don't want to teach about mental health because they see those suffering from it sometimes as dangerous due to the harm that they can do to themselves and others. I'm here to tell you that talking and teaching about mental health is exactly what needs to happen in schools. Many of you practice safe sex, you know the foods you need to put into your body to nourish it, and you do say no to drugs. You do this because you were taught it in school. Think about how much better, mentally and emotionally, you and your peers could be if you were taught how to navigate the waters of mental health at an early age. As a student athlete, I know the feeling of being stressed, overwhelmed, and feeling like you don't have any answers for the problems going on in your life. My mother, being a mental health nurse, helped me overcome some of the problems that I've been faced with as far as mental health is concerned. She's given me tips and advice. She's given me exercises to do that have helped me overcome performance anxiety and handle the feeling that I get of being overwhelmed when games, workouts, practices, school are really starting to fatigue me. Today, I'm going to talk about what types of mental health illness one can face and the serious effects of them. I'm going to also talk about the benefits of adding mental health and wellness to school curriculum and how schools can do that. Anyone can suffer from mental illness. It does not pick and choose who to attack. Even if you aren't diagnosed with a mental disorder, sometimes in your life you will see the symptoms of those who have it too. During this time, you will need to rely on some of the tools and advice that you hear in this speech. So first, let's talk about the 3 most common types of mental illness. There are numerous mental illnesses that have effects like self-harm and death. The most common mental disorders are anxiety disorders, major depressive disorder, and bipolar disorder. According to Access Community Health Network, as of 2019, around 10 million people in America were battling a mental health disorder, those 3 being the most common. Anxiety disorder's main symptom is an immense sense of worry and being fearful often. Being anxious can stem from or take place in different areas of one's life. It can occur in a certain situation or place. It can happen before an event or during a large gathering. It can also stem directly from another health condition. While anyone can develop anxiety, some are at risk more than others, like people who have been through childhood trauma or embarrassed or bullied in school. Like most mental health disorders, having one makes you susceptible to others. For instance, depression and anxiety are very closely related, and many who suffer from one of those will often suffer from both. According to the Mayo Clinic, depression is a mood disorder that causes persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest. Symptoms range from worthlessness and often thought of suicide to tiredness. Bipolar disorder is when a person frequently has high levels of mania and then can quickly switch to high levels of depression. This disorder can sometimes include a major depressive episode, which is when one has 5 or more symptoms of depression at one time. All of these disorders can lead to suicide. Suicide is one of the top 2 causes of death in people aged 15 to 24 in America. With suicide affecting people at such a young age, it's evident that we need to make them aware of the seriousness of mental health early on. There are multiple reasons and benefits to adding mental health and wellness to school curriculum and introducing it to students early. Some of the lowest times in one's mental health take place in school and early adulthood. According to the Dr. Weighs In, the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention reports 1 in 5 children in the U.S. currently have or at some stage had a mental illness, and half of those cases begin for people at age 14. This age group spends a great time at school. This is why school is a perfect opportunity to have discussions and inform students on mental health. Create an environment that is open and safe for students to be transparent with educators can prevent the consequences that students can go through when they have a mental disorder. While the ultimate goal, of course, is to eliminate disorders altogether, it is obvious that life is just not that easy. In cases where students have been exposed to the information about mental health but still developed a disorder anyway, they saw that their consequences weren't that severe and they didn't become suicidal as quickly or maybe at all. Life can sometimes be really hard for students between school, sports, home life, and sometimes peer pressure too. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, people with a mood or anxiety disorder are more than likely to develop an addiction to opioids or other drugs. Drugs can calm nerves and make a person who's depressed feel a little bit better about themselves. The connection between having a disorder and drug abuse can help fight the opioid crisis in America if the number of people developing a disorder goes down. Also, educating students can help them aid their loved ones, and that can lower the rates of people becoming suicidal. While all the various mental health issues and complexities can be touchy for a teacher to talk about with students and possibly overwhelming, here are some ways that it can be incorporated into the classroom that is appropriate for the student and the educator. Educators can use surveys, practice mindfulness, and avoid treating students harshly in front of peers. Surveys help get a truthful response out of students. Instead of asking them out in front of their peers in an open discussion, a survey can help keep their information private between the student and the educator. Mindfulness is a way of breathing and thinking and listening. It is a stress reducer and it can instill empathy. A school district in Fishers, Indiana, equipped teachers with tools needed to practice mindfulness. This exercise occurred every day for 1 minute. The students saw that the teachers made them feel less anxious and argumentative. The nurse also saw that less students were coming to her office with a stomachache. Instead of reprimanding a student in front of their peers, ask them to stay after class or meet them later in the day to discuss an incident that took place in the classroom. Students must feel secure in the classroom in order to trust an environment where teachers are asking them to share details about their mental health. Doing this can help individuals from diving into depression in times where they experience anxiety and feeling unstable in their emotions. Teaching mental health and wellness in schools is extremely important with the way it is affecting children and young adults. There are various types of mental health disorders, and they can all potentially lead to serious things such as death. Districts should create a safe environment with their schools that makes students feel as if they can be transparent with the staff, and it can be beneficial for multiple reasons. With the number of individuals that experience a mental health issue, someone listening to this right now could have gone through one, or at least know someone who has. Don't you want your children and grandchildren to deal with these things better than you or your peers did? Give them a chance by advocating for mental health to be added to school curriculum.